I was terrified. I was embarrassed. I did not want to have to deal with that. I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave from the moment he came up to us. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm McKenna if you're new here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than anything I have done before. I guess it's sort of like a story time video. I've been asked to make a video for my old high school after an act of discrimination against me and my service dog occurred during my brother's high school graduation. So I pulled up my formal letter of complaint that I sent to the school board and the superintendent and the principal after all this happened, just because this did happen on May 17th of 2019 and it's like September 14th now. So this happened at the beginning of the summer, and the school promised to do some sort of training for all of their staff so it doesn't happen to anyone else. And that was something I was very adamant about, and I wanted to make sure that the staff had proper training, because what happened to me should never happen to anyone ever again. Because like I said, this happened back in May at my brother's high school graduation, and that was a while ago. It was a couple months ago. So I'm going to use this as a reference. So before I start this video, I want to say I'm not out to like attack anybody or get anybody in trouble. I just was incredibly shocked that this happened. This was my old high school that I went to for all 4 years. I've been in the school district since pre-K. The person that came up, that approached Chunk and I, was my high school principal. Someone who knew me since forever. I played volleyball with his daughter. He should have known that when I was in high school I had accommodations, I had a 5-0 floor plan. I never hid my disability, I never hid that I was deaf, so I just assumed that he knew that. Not that I know that's relevant. You should never approach a service dog and a handler in the way that he did. But I'm just here to tell you guys what happened, tell you what was wrong with what happened and how it should have been handled. So on May 17th, I went to my little brother's high school graduation in my old high school gymnasium. I was so nervous. I was excited because I wanted to reconnect with teachers and some old friends and see my little brother walk across the stage. But I was nervous because this was the first time I had Chunk at any sort of event to that scale. I was definitely nervous about how he would handle the band or the clapping or things like that, because he's trained to alert me of noises. I'm deaf. So I knew he would be standing up a lot because that's how he's trained to alert me of noises. But I was pleasantly surprised by him. We walk in there, there's tons and tons of people, the bleachers are full, and he did not even bat an eye. He was perfectly behaved. We walked to a corner of the bleachers and really far up to try to keep him away from people. I'm always very, very, very aware of people's body language around him, because I don't want to put him next to someone who's afraid of dogs or allergic to dogs or anything like that. So we went up in a high corner where no one else was. He laid down right away, acted beautifully, did exactly what he was supposed to do. And not even, definitely less than 5 minutes, I would say less than 2, after we sat down, got settled, Principal Eisenhower approached us. At first, I saw him walking up and I was excited to talk to him and introduce him to Chunk. I just assumed that he was coming up to say hi, he knows my whole family, we've gone there forever. But he walks up and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Does this dog have papers?" My mom thought he was kidding and went to respond with "No, he's a mutt," thinking papers like that, because it was just, we didn't expect anything like that at all. The interaction that I had with Principal Eisenhower at that graduation ceremony was the single worst experience Chunk and I have ever had in a public setting. We have never had a situation in which we were discriminated against before. To blatantly come up and try to exert power over something that you don't understand is so, like, it blows my mind. I was shaking. I was also terrified and embarrassed that I was going to get kicked out of my little brother's graduation because I don't like drawing attention to myself. And so when that happened, at first I kept my mouth shut, so my mom just responded. And then, so I do have an ID card for Chunk, but legally I don't have to have an ID card, I don't have to have any paperwork. He doesn't even have to wear a vest by the law, okay, just to make that clear. And so my mom and Eisenhower were going back and forth. He was being incredibly rude, not willing to like listen at all. Like, he knows me, he knows my family, and he wasn't even willing to have a conversation. He was just demanding paperwork or things like that, and at one point he mumbled, well, dogs aren't allowed in schools. And I'm like, it's not like I'm bringing my pet into school. That's the same thing as saying that like a little old lady in a wheelchair isn't allowed to have her wheelchair. In the eyes of the law, he is viewed as medical equipment. I was just editing this video and just wanted to make a quick point that he was clearly marked in his regular service dog attire, and he was being perfectly well behaved, very obviously a service dog. His vest even has a huge patch right here that says where he was trained. This patch tells that he is a hearing service dog. There was absolutely no reason to assume that he was a pet or anything like that I was trying to bring into a high school. So eventually, after my mom was trying to get him to listen, I butt in, and I was very blunt, and I was definitely rude because he was being incredibly rude to us. And I simply just said something along the lines of, you know that it's illegal for you to even ask me those things. I don't know what he said in response. I'm pretty sure he didn't say anything. I think that's the point when he kind of huffed off and mumbled, well, dogs aren't allowed in school or something like that. This happened like before the ceremony, like we just sat down, and I was so stressed. My anxiety like peaked for the whole rest of the ceremony because I was so scared like of him doing the slightest thing wrong, which should not have been my concern. He was perfect. It was how the situation was handled by other people. So we made it through the graduation ceremony. Other people around us were apologizing on his behalf, and other staff of Principal Eisenhower came up and apologized to me and my family on his behalf. But I did not see him again throughout that entire ceremony or afterwards when we were taking pictures with my brother, saying hi to family, friends, and staff. Never saw him again. Legally, there are two questions that you can ask a service dog handler. One, you can ask, is this a service dog? To which I would have responded, yes, he's my service dog. The other question you can ask is, what services does he provide for you? To which I would have responded, you know I'm deaf, I had a 504 pan here, and he's my ears, he is my independence. Without him, I have to rely on other people. Oh, are you dying? No, I just wanted to be in the shot. But those questions were never asked because the staff at the school were obviously not educated enough about service animals and handlers to know what they can and cannot ask, which I find completely unacceptable. You are a school full of handicapped and special needs children, including myself at the time. And after that happened, the only reason I did this letter of complaint and I contacted people and I was like, something needs to change, is not for me at all. It's for all those handicapped kids that are still in your school today that may need a service dog in the future. I don't want them to have to go through a fight with you to have their basic rights met. That's not fair to them at all, and they're kids. If I would have had Chunk like 2 years prior when I was a senior in high school, what would have happened then? So one thing I want to make clear that I was talking about before the camera died, is that it's not just about the fact of his rude demeanor or how we were approached, which obviously that was wrong in a moral sense. The problem is that he broke federal laws and didn't even realize it. The Americans with Disability Act covers all of these things, and I think as staff that works with students on a daily basis, you need to be aware of these laws and you need to understand them properly. I'm going to have some links down below with the links to the direct laws that I mentioned in this, as far as what you can ask and if he has to have any identification on him and all those sorts of things. I really, really hope that you guys educate yourself and don't let this ever happen again. Don't let this happen to some high school kid that doesn't know their rights and can't stand up for themselves, because I was lucky. I knew my rights. I knew the laws. I knew that what he was doing was illegal, and he didn't. And that's not okay.